What's up, listeners? It's Elisha, and welcome back to the For the Creatives podcast. Today, I'm coming to you from the Tropical Innovation Festival in Far North Queensland, Cairns, Australia. And I'm here today with Paulwyn and Allard from Medoo. They are the innovative minds behind this startup. These founders have created this really interesting startup that combines the coaching industry with innovative tech. So stay tuned as we explore their journey from Canva to creating a startup that's all about empowering coaches and their clients. Let's get into it. Hey, Paulwyn and Allard, thank you for joining me on the podcast today. Do you guys mind introducing yourselves and just a bit about what you do in your startup?
It's great to be here, Elisha. I am Paulwyn, co-founder of Medoo coaching technology startup. So we build software for coaches and their clients to collaboratively document the coaching journey and visualize progress and make that coaching journey more tangible so that they can reach new levels of inner development faster.
It's amazing.
Thanks for having us, Elisha. My name's Allard, and I'm the designer and co-founder together with Paulwyn, as well as life partner.
And we're here at the Tropical Innovation Festival, which we'll touch on in a moment. But I have a question for you. Because we're at the Innovation Festival, this is a bit of a wacky innovation question. How would you design a pair of socks that never get lost in the laundry? There's no right answer. Or maybe there is.
I'm going to give you a smart-ass answer through a process of iteration. Yeah, the good question is, what would be features of socks that never get lost? I guess you would maybe not design the socks, but design the rest of the laundry.
That's such a meta answer. My answer is I would just make them huge. so
you can't miss them.
Yes, I can't miss them.
At one point I was thinking, you make them sticky, but then I was like, no, then they'd stick. Yeah. Then they could, yeah, that wouldn't work. Well, now diving back into Medoo and your startup. So what started that journey? Like, why did you start Medoo?
It started with my time at Canva. And Canva has an internal coaching team where there are coaches who help people from all across the company with their inner growth and development. And so when I was at Canva, I went from being an individual contributor software engineer to leading a group of over 100 people distributed across three different continents in just a few years. So Canva was growing like crazy during that period. And that is a huge amount of growth to go through as an individual in a very short period of time. So coaching was super helpful for me in helping me grow, and it was incredibly transformative. So that's how I recognized the power of coaching. But then in the process, we noticed that we were using a patchwork of different tools like emails and pen and paper and different things to track that coaching journey, which meant that a lot of the value that I'd accrued through the process was lost. So that's how we got started thinking about how can we build a tool that unintrusively sits in the coaching process and amplifies the power of coaching? So that's where the idea started. And then we played around with it for a while, did some research, talked to a lot of coaches, and then I convinced Allard to join me on this crazy, wild adventure. And here we are.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Within your current roles, what does your day-to-day look like in Medoo?
Yeah, I think I could speak to, we were building up until very recently, we were building quite a lot. So that day was actually had a very relatively structured week where we almost worked around the clock, or at least had work for the products going around the clock, because we had a group of engineers that were abroad in Europe. And so we had a nice little handoff going where we would have stand up actually at the end of the day and work together with them on any blockers that they would have and set them up for success during the night. And then in the morning, we could do any code review and quality testing in the morning and have that ready for the day. And then during the afternoon, work on kind of new features and new ideas, brainstorming and things like that for where we wanted to go next. And so we had a nice little, conveyor belt going for a while. And right now we're more in acquisition mode.
Yeah, so now our days are a bit more mixed, but what I love is that it involves a lot of customer conversations, a lot of interaction with customers. Previously, we were very focused, like Allard said, on the development, and now we're focused on, before it was product development, now it's business development for this little while, and then that will shift again in about a month's time.
Yeah, that's great. It's a really interesting journey, the startup journey, isn't it? It's wearing so many different roles and hats and stages. Now, there's a lot of young creatives and aspiring entrepreneurs as well who may be listening to this. And with every episode, I'm just continuing to explain and define different terms that maybe not everyone knows. So when you say you're in acquisition mode, what does that mean? Where is the business at when it's in acquisition mode, the startup?
Yeah, I can take that. I think it depends on the stage and the phase of the startup that you're in,
Yeah.
what you mean when you say acquisition. And for us at the moment, that is really, so we have a few different channels through which we find our customers. One of the big ones is referrals from our existing customers, referring other people that they know. And at the moment, we have a very high touch process to onboard them into Medoo. And that involves demos. But it also involves conversations in understanding their coaching practice. So it's a lot of storytelling about our journey as well as listening to them and then demoing the product and bringing them along for the journey into the product. So that's what we mean when we say acquisition. But at the same time, there's also other acquisition pieces that we are working on, which is our blog. So that is more focused on adding value to the coaching community, but it is also an organic channel through which people discover us rather than us having to find them. So we spend a lot of time thinking about what we write on our blog, doing that. And then the other acquisition piece is events. So we have a small but growing community of coaches, and we organize events for them online where we can come together, bring speakers, bring people who they love listening to and talk about topics that are interesting for them. So that's another kind of focus for acquisition. So this is all packaged in that one word.
Thanks for explaining that. And with your startup, Medoo, at the moment, what is a challenge that you're currently facing and working through?
I think one of the challenges at a very high level is balancing our time between all of those things. Like what Paulwyn just described is, you might see, is like a lot of stuff to do, and like writing content and creating content can take up as much time as you give it, right? Being like doing a podcast, you would know that it always feels like you could do more in that space. And so basically deciding on the trade-offs that we want to make of figuring out what would give us the biggest impact and trying to put our time there. I think that's a challenge that, we're figuring out as we go along and are constantly tweaking just our efforts, really.
Yeah, we do a stand-up every morning to align on priorities for the day and try to set goals for the week, for the month, so that we know what we're working towards. But absolutely, that is one of our big challenges. And the other one from building the business point of view is, so we've got early traction, we've got early customers, we're starting to see some really involved and engaged customers, which is really exciting. But the challenge is, how do we scale this, and how do we scale this really quickly with as little capital as possible? Like, we're happy to spend all our time on this. We have a great community of friends and supporters and advisors helping us. But it's really that scale is our next challenge. Like, how do we scale up, and how do we reach as many coaches and get them on board as quickly as we can and grow?
Yeah, okay. Thank you for sharing that. As either founders or people in the innovation ecosystem or the startup ecosystem, I think we all, we might wear different hats and have different roles, but sometimes we find that we've all got this really specific thing that we're really good at, we just personally like thrive in. And I know a few other people call it this, and I like to call it this. I like your superpower. What would your superpowers be? Or your strengths, your thing that you're really, really good at?
Maybe we do the reverse, like Allard says what Ryan You have some time to think. Thank you, Elisha. I think Allard's superpower is, he's a designer. So I think his superpower is really being able to break down a complex problem into its foundational pieces and then building the solution from the ground up. I think Allard is great at doing that. Me as an engineer, on the other hand, I like to rush to solutions sometimes, and I tend to want to be like, okay, here's the problem, let's figure it out, but that's not how it works when you are doing something creative, like building a product that doesn't exist at all. So I love that about Allard, even though sometimes it can be like we talk past each other because of that difference in our way of thinking. I think that's Allard's superpower.
I think it's really funny that you mention it in that way as well, because I was literally going to say kind of the inverse of that being your superpower in that like that's exactly like where we find, I guess, our friction and our kind of like our synergy as well.
Yeah, that's also why I think we are good. We're a good team.
Yeah, so I think Paulwyn's superpower is not the part of like, let's jump to a solution. I don't think that's the superpower. I think the superpower is we need to get something done. Like we have a timeline. Like that's great that you have 1,000 ideas, Allard, but like we have to, we have to deliver something within a month, and what are the concrete steps that we do to get there, and if we miss one or like make a misstep, how do we get ourselves back on track? And I think that's Paulwyn's really good at that, at just keeping order.
Sounds like you both have like really complementary sort of, strengths and skills. Yeah, that's great. So sometimes Mondays get a bad rep, okay? A lot of times you'll hear, you've probably heard, thank God it's Friday, because everyone can't wait to get to the end of the week. I'm continually trying to reframe that narrative myself and be excited to get out of bed on Monday. So do things and have things in my week, in my life that make me want to get out of bed on a Monday. So my question to both of you is, what gets you out of bed in the morning, and what is the big picture for Medoo?
Yes, so we were talking about this earlier yesterday, actually, about the highs and lows of startup life, but also the grind of it. So yeah, it is a tough journey. What drives us, what keeps us going is the passion for the space and the vision that we want to create, which is that I truly believe that the answers to the world's biggest problems start from inside of us. And if we cannot change ourselves and grow ourselves, then we can't expect to do that externally to the world around us either. But we don't have to do that alone. Like, it's not something that you and I have to sort of struggle in our own little silos with. And that's where coaching comes in. Coaching is super valuable in creating that transformative change that lasts. I know this from my own experience, as well as millions of people around the world have had the benefit of coaching. So understanding the power of coaching, the power of that inner growth and development, and the fact that it's even more important in a world that keeps changing underneath our feet. So our passion for that space and the vision that we want to create is really putting technology, any kind of technology, putting it to use to help people grow themselves and live their best lives. That's our vision for the future. So I try to remind myself of that every time, every day, and especially when it gets difficult and to get through those difficult moments.
I think, Paulwyn said it super eloquently. I feel like that's the kind of like highest level goal that we have. So to give you another one, perhaps make it a little more personal. Another thing that we do both share on kind of like coming from our backgrounds of being an engineer and a designer is that we really want to build something that is beautiful and useful. And then just the act of building and the act of going through those motions of creating a product in kind of the way that we see as being like the right way to do things and finding the right things to do. Yeah, that's something that we both enjoy as well. And then if we put that energy behind something as high and as righteous, almost as like trying to fix the world, trying to help the world solve its problems by supporting inner growth, that becomes very powerful.
Yeah, I love the process, I think. The Monday to Friday, or like, what you said of, everyone's like, thank God it's Friday, and then Monday is horrible. I think that is a symptom of not loving the process. Yeah. And being in love with the process means that sometimes we lose track of weeks and days and you don't have that sense of, it's weekend, so it's fun, and the rest of the week is not.
It sounds like you both have a really inspiring mission or vision that's pulling you along, which is great. And it sounds exciting as well, like just being able to create and design something new that people can use as well. Well, thank you both for sharing a bit about Medoo and a small part of the journey and where it's at the moment. As we wrap up, I have some questions for you about the festival today. So we're here at the Tropical Innovation Festival. How are you guys enjoying it?
I'm loving it. I think it's super fun. I'm having really good conversations with other founders and just hearing the stories of like where they're at and what their journey was. And I guess having shared experiences and seeing what I can learn from them and what we can share from our journey that they can learn from. And I think, it's just really, it's energizing to share those stories. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm loving it as well. I think what the Tropical Innovation Festival does really well is to bring together a high density of people who are amazing, just incredible innovators, creative people, people who've been extremely successful at business, but bringing them all together into the one space and then creating a sense of serendipity, like, just creating more surface area for interesting and lucky things to happen, because it is more informal than a traditional conference. It's not as heavily strictly structured. It creates space for those magical moments to happen by bringing together that density of amazing people and creating the space for lucky things to happen. I think that's very special about the festival.
I agree for sure. I experienced that just on the first day, the first few conversations with just random people and the different connections that were made and the conversations that were had. I just loved how Tara and Kate have put together this festival. But thank you again for coming on. Thank you for sharing some of your thoughts and where things are at. If people want to find out more about Medoo, where can they go?
Yeah, they can check out our website. It's medoo.life. We also have a blog which is linked through there. So subscribe to our blog if you like hearing about coaching and personal growth and inner development.
Thank you guys, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the event.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks, Elisha.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the For the Creatives podcast. If you're inspired by Paulwyn and Allard and what they're doing and you want to explore more about Medoo, you can visit them at medoo.life. Now, if this episode was interesting or you think it might be valuable to someone else, would love it if you can leave a review on our podcast page on whatever platform you're listening on, or send it to a friend. Either way, stay creative and catch us in the next episode.